everyone, and welcome back to another tutorial for the Create mod, where we're going to be making quite possibly the best early game farm that you can get started with. And that is, of course, these lovely harvesting contraptions that you can see here. These are really simple to make, use very little materials, and they're able to gather all of your basic crops for you, as well as sweet berries, also netherwort and kelp and sugarcane as well. So for one tiny little farm, it is really very useful. But let's have a little look at what we need to actually create this. And as you can see, this is all of the ingredients that you're going to need to make one little contraption, and it is really very basic. By far the most difficult thing to get hold of is going to be your mechanical harvesters, just because you do need to have iron sheets for these, so you will need to have made yourself a press. And the other thing you're going to need is some super glue, which, while not challenging to create, it does mean you need to make slime balls, so you will have to have ground up some wheat to make some dough for yourself. But that's not too challenging neither. It's not like any of this is very expensive, just means you'll have to have had a little bit of wheat growing already. But let's have a little look at what we need to do in order to make one of these harvesters. And the first thing you're going to want to do is decide where you want your harvester to be, bearing in mind that because it spins around in a circle, it does take up quite a bit of space, and it does need an 11 by 11 area. But once you've decided where you want it to be, you need to place your water wheel right in the very centre of it, facing upwards just like so. On top of that, you can then place a mechanical bearing going directly on top of the water wheel, and then we need to get this thing activated. Luckily, these water wheels don't need very much water in order to work. In fact, they only need a 1 by 2 space, just like that, just so that you've got enough space there to make water flow. Then when you place your water source on one side, it will flow up against these spokes and it's going to push our water wheel around. From there then, we can come up on top of our mechanical bearing, and we're going to need to build an arm out to one side of it, just so that we've got space for it to push our actual little harvesters. So what we're going to do is we'll just place one little block, and then we're going to come out by another 4. Just like that, so we've got a little arm that is 5 blocks wide. Really doesn't matter what these blocks are made of. I like to use wood just because I think it looks quite natural. Against that then, we can place our 4 little mechanical harvesters, just like that. And one thing you will need to have noticed when you place these down though is which direction your water wheel is actually spinning in. So I can see that this one is turning in a clockwise direction, so the arm is going to move in a clockwise direction, and I need those mechanical harvesters to be on this side so that they're being pushed along. From this point then, we can now place a chest anywhere along this arm up at the top. I like to put it directly above the bearing, just so that I know exactly where it is. And then we're also going to place a portable storage interface on the end as well. So I'll just pillar up a little bit, and we're going to place our interface just there so that it is pointing off the end of our arm. And the reason why we've done that is because these portable storage interfaces do exactly what they say on the can. They are an interface for portable storage, so that is the chest that we've placed up on top of the arm. It is able to gather the crops that the harvesters are cutting down. They get stored in this chest, and then these little interfaces are able to work together to transfer that storage to this storage. So everything is gathering in here, not in the chest that is on top of the arm. And the reason why that is so useful is because if you actually stop these arms from moving around, they will destroy the crops that are directly beneath them because they revert back to solid blocks. And so, because you have these little portable storage interfaces, you can move things around without doing any damage. And just to point out, you shouldn't ever actually have to stop these arms once you set them off, because you can see that they replant crops as they go. So every time they cut down one of these netherwort, they are automatically replanting these new ones. And so there's no real reason why you should have to stop them. One thing to note though that this sort of demonstrates quite nicely is that there is a gap just in a little 1 by 4 around the edge of our arm. So you can see that these netherworts aren't getting cut down. That's alright though, that's just a minor little bit of wastage that comes from the shape of the farm itself. It certainly isn't going to make any real difference to its output. But if we see where this little wart gets cut down, it has been chopped down, it has been automatically replanted, and now it is going to go into the storage. And that's how these little farms work. And so now though, if we come back to our little farm and we set it off, everything has been built, everything is ready, but you will notice that nothing is moving around at the moment. That is because it does need to be stuck together with the glue. So I'm just going to stop that one again, and I'm going to take my super glue, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the chest, and I'm going to right click on that to set the first position. And then as I move this glue around, as I waft my cursor over these blocks, you can see it is being surrounded by a green bounding box. And once everything is in there, I'm going to be able to stick everything together by clicking right again, and you can see how it makes the box around it. What this means now is that when I set it off again, everything is going to turn, and now it's going to push it all around. You will also notice that I didn't actually have to stick those harvesters to the arm. As long as it's being pushed by something, they will work. They don't need to be glued on, they just need to be shoved along. At this point though, I'm going to switch this arm back off again, because we need to build up the farmland around it. And in order to do that, I'm going to come over to my mechanical bearing. I'm not going to set it off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build dirt against it, going out by 4 blocks. Just like so, and I'm going to do that going all the way around. From there, I can then come off the end of each of these little arms of dirt, and I'm going to build them out by another 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I'm just going to pillar up just to fill in that space which is in the middle. So show that again, come around the other side, we're just going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, and then where we have like a diagonal, we're just going to fill that in so that we are creating a little circle just as you can see like that. And then this can all be filled in as well. There we go, and now we know that every single one of these little blocks here will be able to be harvested by our little mechanical harvesters, and so I'm just going to surround the whole thing with a little bit of stone just to make it slightly prettier. Next thing we need to do then is we need to add in some water sources in order for this to function as good farmland. So we're just going to come to either side of our arm, as you can see, and just punch out a couple of little holes and check that you're not over the top of the water source for the water wheel. And so long as you're not, you can just pop 2 little water sources on either side here. Don't worry if you're over where the actual water wheel is turning. You can put a block next to it and it won't disturb it at all. Be able to just pop our little water sources in there, and then it doesn't really matter if these aren't being used for farmland, because as we mentioned before, those are 2 little spaces that don't get harvested anyway. But once that is in place, I now just need to turn all of this into actual farmland and get some crops growing, and then we can get things set off. Okay, so there we go. That is as much planted up as we could do to begin with. You will notice though that there is a line of dirt underneath this arm that I can't get to at the moment. So what we need to do is we need to set this farm off. Away that goes, and now I can get to this little patch here that I couldn't reach before, and I can get that one set up with some wheat as well. There we go, and so from this point on now, there is no reason why I should have to touch that arm. I just need to get the storage set up. To do that, I'm going to come into the center of one of these little 5 long blocks that we've got here that we made around the edge. So I'm right here on this central block, and that should put me directly in line with the mechanical bearing, which it does. Which is good, it means I'm going to be in line with this interface as it comes around. From here then, we're then just going to fall back off our farm so that we are staying in line with these little central blocks you can see just here. We're going to place one of our building blocks down, pop a chest on top of that, just so that it's got something to sit on. We're going to have a chute going into our chest. You will need to crouch just as you jump up and place that. And then I need to put another one of our portable storage interfaces on top of the chute. So I'll just hop back up here. Then I'll wait for this to come round so that it doesn't push me. And then I'm going to come in front of our chute and just place another portable storage interface down. And what this means is that now it'll be able to interface with this one. Oh, there we go, just like that. And it's going to put all of our wheat into this box once it starts growing. Of course, this is just a single chest though, so I'll just make it into a double as well, just so that it's got that little bit more storage for us going forward. And that is literally it. That is everything that you need to do in order to make one of these little farms, and of course it's able to harvest all of these different crops for you. If you want to make a sugarcane farm, it is exactly the same design with just one tiny little tweak. Is that if I come over here and I remove this bearing, there is a shaft in between the water wheel, which is just there, before it goes into the bearing. So it's just pushing the farm up by 1 block so that our harvesters are 1 block above our sugarcane. and that way it just cuts down the sugarcane, it doesn't take out the original source. The same goes for the kelp, exactly the same setup as this one, the only difference is it's all been waterlogged and it's kelp of course. Just the same though, if I take out this bearing, you'll see there is a shaft between the water wheel and the bearing itself, just to push that farm up by 1 block. And that's literally the only difference. Other than that, they are identical farms to the ones that harvest dryland crops. Anywho though, I hope you've enjoyed this little video all about how to make one of the easiest and most useful contraptions for the Create mod. Happy Minecrafting everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!